All right, it is go time. It is time for your favorite poker strategy podcast, Poker and Pizza. And I hope you are ready for an exciting episode because there is a lot of online poker tournaments going on right now. We've got the big OSS series on ACR. We've got the Micro Thunder series on Global. And I'm sure there are others going on, and I am excited to get into it. Welcome, everybody. Hope you are doing well. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. I had a pretty chill weekend. Actually took Friday and Saturday off, and then grinded yesterday. Had some deep runs. Didn't quite finish any of them, but was very happy with how I played and with the opportunities I had. And we do have some pizza here. I was going to save this pizza. It's not very impressive on this plate, but I was going to save this for the last episode, but then I just decided to say, screw it. This is from a bowling alley, a local bowling alley that we used to go to as kids. They make this very thin sliced, it's like really thin sliced pizza. And I have fond memories of it because when we were kids, we would always compete to see who could break the record for eating the most slices of this pizza. And they cut the pizza slices really small. Like sometimes you get pieces that are like an inch by an inch. So we would all fight over who could get like the tiny corner pieces that were the smallest, because any slice of pizza counted as a slice of pizza. I think the record ended up being like 32 or 33. But it's really good. One of my absolute favorites. And I was just like, you know what? It's sunny out. I have a sugar-free, 0-calorie root beer. Screw it. Let's go all out and have some delicious pizza. Shout out to my early peeps. Ginger, good to see you. Arakara Blue, what's going on? DFS Brad says no pizza here, but I work for one. I need to remind you all to bring pizza. That's what I need to do. While I'm finishing this real quick, shameless announcement here. Over at Rec Poker, in the Rec Poker Discord, we are running a leaderboard for the Micro Thunder series. So if you like competing in leaderboard competitions, head to joinrec.poker, click the Discord button. It's free to join the Discord. Head over to the Micro Thunder Challenge. Drop your global name in there, and you can start competing. We only had one person cash last night, so top 3 cashes count for the entire week. You don't even have to play every day to have a chance to win it. And first place is going to get either a free month of Rec Poker Premium, or if you're already a Rec Poker Premium member, you're going to get a free month from one of our learning partners. There's several different training sites that we promote over there. So check that out. That'll be a lot of fun. I'll be competing in that. Don't worry, I'm not eligible to win it, but I'm going to compete in it. What else is going on? I'm making good progress on the Global Poker Masterclass. We're expecting to release that at the end of this month. It'll be much smaller than the Ramp Poker Core training course. It'll be like, I don't know, probably 15 to 20 videos. But it'll just really hone in on how to make money at low stakes, specific on Global, some of the cool things you can take advantage of there. How I tag my players, and then how I target and strategize against those players, which I think is a really valuable set of information. And then I'm going into some very format-specific stuff in that course. So we're going to talk about PKOs. We're going to talk about the mystery bounties, especially. A lot of people play the mystery bounties on Global very wrong, because the mystery bounties on Global are different than on any other site. So look for that to come out at the end of this month. And then I've already started work on the one that's coming after that, which is going to be a another smaller series on approaching live poker in Vegas. And I'm actually going to be a guest on the Rec Poker podcast in mid-April to come on and talk about that one. And we're going to talk about all the different venues that are there, the different tournament series. We're going to look over the schedules, what the player pools are like at each place, how to pick your schedule out, how to adjust your play, specifically playing Vegas. It's a unique situation. So yeah, that'll be really cool too. So lots of stuff coming. Lots of stuff coming. We upgraded the notes here, so we're going to give this a try. No more me trying to type into the Word document and then not like dragging it down and scaling it so you guys can actually see what the hell I'm doing. Oh my God, I love that pizza. All right, what a great start to the week. What a great start to the week. Are we ready to dig in? So again, if you guys haven't checked it out, there are tournament series going on ACR and Global right now. I am not affiliated with either site, so I'm just telling you this out of the knowledge and information. You like poker series, they're both running series right now, so feel free to check those out. But we're going to talk today about how to dominate your next online tournament series, whether that's one of these two series or one that's coming up in the future. Now, the topic for today is not how to chill and have a good time playing in your next online tournament series. It's how to dominate. So if your goal is to dominate, I'm going to give you the path to do that. There may be some things in here that don't sound very fun, and you may have to go, you know what, I'm not doing that. And that's fine. But you want to dominate and play at your best ability and max capacity, and you want to put yourself at your fullest potential. These are the types of things you have to do. And the reason that there's opportunity to dominate in poker tournament series and online tournament series right now is because people are not doing these types of things. So I want you to think about that. Again, I'm not saying you have to do all these things, but if you really want to play at your best, this is how we're going to go. So here's the premise, okay? Whoa, that's not what we wanted. There we go. Apparently, if you're not clicked on the slideshow and you hit the down arrow, it changes scenes in OBS. Good to know. All right, premise for this whole topic. Even if you play high volume on a particular site, tournament series play very different. Okay, so let's say you've been playing on ACR for 5 years. You've been playing on Global for 5 years. Like, I've been playing here for a long time. I know these players. I have good notes. I have good HUD stats. It doesn't matter, because when these tournaments fire up, people lose their damn minds. They play differently. They act differently. It draws a crowd in that normally doesn't play on the site, but now comes over specifically for the tournament series. The structures are different. The prizes are different. The tournaments go longer. It is a completely different animal. So you can't just approach it the way that you would approach a normal tournament on the site and expect to have the same results. Smaller stakes players move up during these series. So, you know, whatever a typical 55 or 22 or 11 or 109 plays like on a site, when a series is going and they have a buy-in at that level, these smaller stakes players start to move up and take more shots, and it makes those fields a little bit softer. At the same time, you see better players, higher stakes players, move down in stakes and play their C game. So, for example, I know we'll use the OSS series as a good example. You're going to find some 55 ABI players that are going to hop in those $11 OSS events, and they're going to autopilot the whole tournament. Like, it's going to be table 11 out of 12 or 12 out of 12 or 7 out of 8 or 15 out of 16. It's going to be in the bottom right-hand corner of their monitor. And they're just going to like make very quick decisions. They're not paying attention to who the opponent is. They're not really looking at HUD stats. They're just autopiloting because they know that their autopilot is still going to make them profitable. And they're just trying to eke out a little bit more profit and win rate in their tournament. But that means they're playing differently. And it means that the small stakes players are playing differently. The multi-bullet players love to pew, 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 pew. You will see people in the early stages of these tournaments just yeeting stacks. And I don't know if it's like this mentality that, hey, if I, I got 10 bullets to fire. I want to have a big stack to have a chance to win this. So I'm just going to go all in a bunch of times. And, by bullet 10, I'm going to have like 4 or 5x starting. And then I'm going to have a shot. I don't know what the mentality is, but you will see people specifically like on ACR and the sites where you can re-enter, or in like the rebuy tournaments on global, just hemorrhage chips in the early stages of the tournaments. And then the other thing you're going to see is population. I'd like to talk about population tendencies, right? In poker, we don't think of an opponent having a hand. We think of an opponent having a range. And when we're playing random players, we don't think of a random player being a specific player necessarily until we have enough information. We think of what population tends to do. And population in these fields loves to make moves. This is them coming. It's their Super Bowl. It's their exciting tournament of the month, whatever. So they want to make bigger bluffs. They want to make bigger bluff catches. They want to play for bigger pots. They did not come to fold. And this is very, very important. So you can see here, this is 4 ways that these online tournament series play very different from your daily $11 5K guaranteed that you play on your favorite site of choice. So how are we going to attack these and dominate this unique format? We're going to go through 6 steps today. Step 1, make your own tournament series schedule. This is so important, okay? You should, before any tournament series starts, or before, maybe if it's started but you haven't started it yet, you should look at the entire schedule. And you should look at your bankroll, and you should look at your calendar, and you should come up with a list of events that you're going to play. Now, that doesn't mean that like the second you've made that list, you're like pot committed to play every tournament and you can't play any other tournament that's scheduled. But having a preset schedule does several things for you, both in terms of your planning, your preparation, and your approach to these, okay? So think about it like a live tournament series. If you were to go to Vegas for a week, maybe during the summer here, right? You wouldn't just fly to Vegas and show up and hop in the Uber and get out of your Uber and then just like walk down the strip and be like, I'm just going to walk in the Venetian and play a tournament and see what they're playing. No, you would like plan. You would look at all the events. You would look at all the different schedules. You'd look at the buy-ins. You'd look at the guarantees. You'd look at the structures. You'd think about where people are going to be, and you'd try and pick the best spot. And you would be like, all right, I'm going to fire this. I'm going to fire this. I'm going to fire this. Because of the convenience of online, though, we just kind of like to play it by ear. And part of the reason we do this with a live tournament series is there's an advantage to planning it out and to being organized and to figuring out how many buy-ins you're going to have and to strategizing the best opportunities for you. But online we get lazy and we're just like, screw it. There's so many of them, I'm just going to play. But this has just as much value online as it does live. In addition, it can create some excitement and intensity. There's something about having something in a calendar that helps you have an additional focus, right? So if you know, hey, it is Tuesday, March 18th, and I am playing the $33 35K tonight, you actually get to kind of mentally prepare for that. Like throughout the day, you're kind of thinking about, all right, well, I'm playing the 33 35K tonight. What's my strategy going to be like? How am I going to approach the early stages? Am I going to shark scope people? How am I going to react to certain player types? Am I going to be aggressive? Am I going to be conservative? Am I firing 1 bullet? Am I firing 2? This just organically gets you prepared so that when you get in the seat and you play this tournament, you're in a heightened state of focus and determination and excitement, and you're really ready to play versus like getting off work, rushing to your desk, sitting down at the computers, looking at what's there, picking a random tournament, and you're not mentally prepared. So I think this is really important. It can help you get excited about what's coming up. And again, like, it's okay to be excited. I don't want to make this, idea that things shouldn't be fun ever. I mean, it's a tournament series. You're playing for big money. Let's be excited, but let's do it with some intentionality. This also really important, allows us to avoid spontaneous decisions. I've seen a lot of bankrolls torched or damaged or messed up because, people sit down and like the impulse kicks in and they're like, what? A 109 200K? Ah, screw it. And they click the button and they go. When they could have fired like 10 bullets into an $11, 25 or 30K, where first place still would have been a massive, massive impact on their bankroll, but they get caught in the impulsive train. So like having that schedule planned out just helps you comfortably plan for how many bullets you can fire, what you're firing. It also like lets you know like, hey, everything's not riding on this bullet, right? Like if you know you're playing 20 tournaments, you're tournament 5, you're not having this like it's all or nothing mentality to how you approach things. So getting out of those spontaneous decisions helps. And then it's really important. This allows us to track our results. And I think tracking results in tournament series is important. If you want to dominate tournament series, you need to have some idea of how well you're performing. And actually, I don't need these headphones. I'll take these off. You need to have some idea of how you're performing. And I know people don't like to look at these things because it's like, well, I only cashed 2 tournaments this tournament series. It's embarrassing. It's uncomfortable. Who cares, right? If you have a bad tournament series, you have a bad tournament series. I'm a big inner monologue guy. So when I have a bad tournament series, I'm usually talking myself up for the next one. I'm like, all right, well, almost like I'm in a post-game interview. I'm like, all right, you know what? We didn't have a good series. Things didn't go our way, but, I'm going to dig in for the next one. I'm going to get some study done between now and then. I'm going to make sure that I'm extra prepared. And when the next one comes, I'm going to be ready to go. Like these things help us figure out, basically we get to look back and kind of say, did we do a good job? Did we do a bad job? Did we make some mistakes that we can improve on? Or was it just variance? Are there opportunities to improve? Things that we want to study between now and the next series. These are all things that help us continue to improve along the way. That's not the sexy or fun part of poker. But again, the people that are doing this are getting a leg up on the ones that don't. And so every time you don't do this and you're competing against people that do, you're losing ground on them. So this goes into step 2, which is we want to track results. We want to be able to set proper goals for the tournament series. Now, I did a thing on goal setting very, very early in this. You can go back to the old poker and pizza videos and check that out. But just to highlight some things, remember, we want goals to be consistently attainable and measurable. A lot of people go into a tournament series and they go, I want to win a ring. I want to win a trophy. I want to win a bracelet. That's cool, but that's a dream. That's not a goal, okay? You cannot go into a tournament series and win a trophy every tournament series or win a bracelet every tournament series. So you're setting goals that are out of your control. And ultimately, even if you do your absolute best, may not come to fruition. And that is not a healthy way to go about things. Not only does that leave you disappointed the vast majority of the time, but it puts you in a mindset where you're chasing and pushing and forcing yourself to try and fabricate this experience that's completely out of your control. And the vast majority of the time we walk away feeling, beat up, disappointed, upset. What we need to do is we need to set goals that we can actually obtain on a consistent basis. So I like to coach students on, hey, how many deep runs can I get? How many cashes can I get? How many tournaments can I fire? If I'm firing 20 tournaments, can I do it on 30 bullets or less? Things that are like much more measurable, much more attainable, still give us some idea of how our performance is doing, but now it's a lot more in our control. And especially with like the deep runs, it's like, we're playing this Micro Thunder series. I'm going to play probably just about every event, even though it's like kind of below what my normal buy-in level is, because trophies look cool on the wall and they're good for business, right? Like the trophies are good for the brand. So we're going to play them all. My goal for that series is going to have 5 deep runs. And I had one last night in the PLO, busted like 23rd, 24th. So that's going to be my goal. I don't care if I win a trophy or not. Would I like to win a trophy? Absolutely. It would be awesome. But if I don't, I don't. my main goal is going to be to get a certain amount of deep runs. And then if I'm getting enough deep runs, I'm going to get some final tables. And then if I get enough final tables, eventually I will get that trophy, or I will get that ring, or I will get that bracelet. But I don't go setting goals that are like these grandiose, ridiculous goals that are completely unattainable and just purely based on luck. So again, focus on caches, deep runs, lowest number of bullets, and then make sure you track your results. Now, this doesn't have to be fancy, okay? I know some of you don't have a lot of time to play poker. You have very busy lives, you have families, you have, jobs, you have all these things going on. So I'm not saying you have to pull up Google Sheets and then pull up ChatGPT and then figure out how to make a really fancy spreadsheet that tracks your ROI and tracks your wins and tracks your losses and tracks how many bullets you fired and then tells you what the trends are, any of that stuff. Like literally pull up your notepad, like put notepad in your search bar and literally go caches 4. And just keep this up on your window and then update it. Like just have some idea. If your goal is caches, there. If your goal is deep runs, 6. This takes no time at all, right? But it does give you some idea of how you're doing. And then at the end of the series, you can just look and say, okay, you know what? I played 25 tournaments. I only had 1 deep run. Now, again, can we reflect? Can we look back and say, what happened? Was I too aggressive? Was I reckless? Was I getting lost in certain situations? Or did I just run really, 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 really bad? If you're not doing these types of retroactive kind of like reflections, then you just can't expect to get consistent results in these types of fields. Because again, this plays different than your normal tournament series or your normal tournaments on these sites. The experiences are different. The player types are different. So you have to be willing to look at what is different and figure out if you're making the right adjustments. And if you're not tracking how you're doing, if you're getting to the end of a tournament series and you don't know how many caches or how many deep runs or how many bullets you fired, then you don't even begin to know whether you need to make adjustments or not. So it's really, really important. All right. Lastly, celebrating the W's, right? Like, it's so easy to think about what we didn't accomplish and not think about what we did. Even if you had a bad series. And again, this is something I teach to my students. Even if you've had a bad series, you went out, things didn't go the way you wanted, you ran bad, you made some mistakes, right? You still got 5, 10, 20, 25, 50 tournaments of experience. And that experience is going to have you better off for the next tournament series. So again, being able to reflect on what you could do better, but also appreciating what you got out of that experience is valuable. One thing I love, I had one student that used to do this that I was just so happy. I wanted to just give a standing ovation. Is after every series, he had this Word document that he would open, and after every series, he would add notes to it. And basically the notes he would add were the things that he was doing that was working and the things that he would do that wasn't working. And then when the next tournament series came, he would go back and review that document. I thought that was so freaking brilliant because we all forget things, right? Like, I mean, it's not like, yeah, there's different sites are running tournament series all the time, but it's not like the OSS runs every week. It's not like Global's Micro Thunder runs every week. So being able to go back and review what worked and what didn't work and go through the notes and just have a touch up. What a great way to prepare and get yourself ready for the next series and to get yourself a little hyped because you start thinking about some of the situations you're in. I think that's great. So these are things you can do that really help you get prepared. Step 3, have a pre-game checklist. Okay. All right. So now we've got our schedule. We've got our goals. It's day 1. We're going to dig in and go. Okay. First question. Do I have everything I need to play today? Food, drinks, snacks. People don't think about these things, and it's important. And again, you're up against people that are, okay? I don't want to belittle this at all. You are up against people in these tournament series that when they sit down, they have hydration, they have protein, snacks, energy drinks. They have everything they need so that they can give max focus and play their best poker from start to finish. And they're locked in on it. So if they're doing that and you're not, you're at a disadvantage. It's just the reality of the situation. You don't have to have a mini fridge fully stocked with everything you can get at Costco, but think about what you're going to need to play this particular tournament and make sure you've got everything ready so that you're good to go. Ask yourself if you are mentally locked in for the full length of these tournaments. This is a mistake I see way too often, where people are used to playing tournaments on a particular site. They forget about the fact that these tournament series tournaments are bigger fields. They go longer. They go later into the night. They get home. They're excited. The adrenaline's running. They jump right in a tournament. And then 6 hours later, they're like, oh my God, there's 3 hours to go. I'm just going to double up or go to bed. And then they end up punting their stack. And it's so painful to see, because I love these summaries that our car is putting out here. It's so painful to see, because if you're going to play a tournament for 6 hours, why would you want to play a tournament for 6 hours and then get to one of the most important parts and then just decide you're too tired and yeet it off? But I see it. Now, don't get me wrong. We're going to talk a little bit later about variance and why we can embrace variance in these tournaments. So I don't want you to be scared of flipping in these big fields, but there's a fine line between flipping and punting. And I think that a lot of times players get tired, they get fatigued. They didn't really think about how long these tournaments are supposed to go, and they don't fully mentally commit to this. So you need to ask yourself before every online day in your schedule, you sit down, you're like, all right, if this goes till 2 a.m., am I mentally prepared to play till 2 a.m.? Do I have the drinks and energy and caffeine I need? If I have a job in the morning, I got to get up at 6 a.m. Am I comfortable getting up on 4 hours of sleep if I bust 10th in this tournament and then get 4 hours of sleep and go to work? Go through all that and be honest with yourself so that you don't put yourself in a situation where 90% of what you need to have happen goes well for you, but now because of fatigue and your job and all these other things, you miss out on the upside that you should have had. And because of this, do not be afraid to pivot to smaller fields. Like, let's say tomorrow is a day you have on your schedule and you get off work and you get a long day at work and you're tired, but you really want to play poker. And you're like, man, the series are only 4 times a year. Man, I don't want to miss out. Have the awareness to say, you know what? Today is not my day to play big fields. I can still take advantage of the smaller fields. One of the cool things that happens during these tournament series is some of the smaller fields and some of the less sexier guarantees get neglected because all the better players are playing in all the tournament series, they're playing all the big blinds, they just don't have enough tables. So you can get some edge by hopping in some of these smaller fields where a lot of the regs won't be playing. Get a softer field than you would when the series isn't running. Sometimes even get overlay because these tournaments get overlooked, and still get a chance to play some poker and have some good value, but not necessarily be up till 3 a.m. And this is a huge pivot that I think everyone should, if they want to really be healthy, be planned and prepared for. And the way you put your head around this is just understanding, like, it's a series, right? So, maybe you play Tuesday and Wednesday. If you're exhausted already on Tuesday, and then you end up playing until midnight or 1 on Wednesday, then having to get up and go to work early Wednesday, now you're going to be exhausted for Wednesday too. So put that shorter session in and just tell yourself, all right, I'm going to play a shorter session, play some smaller fields, maybe get a little bit of padding in the bankroll today, and I'm going to get some sleep and get refreshed and be ready for tomorrow so I can be even better tomorrow. In most situations, we want to start from the beginning of the tournament. Now, if you're a really good player and you have consistent results in these fields and you want to late reg these fields to kind of keep yourself fresh and have a shorter length of tournament, then that's fine. But for the vast majority of people who are watching or listening to this, you want to be in at the beginning because like I talked about, these people are punting. They are hemorrhaging chips. They're firing several bullets. They are they're playing for fun. You even have some higher stakes players that will sometimes come into these lower buy-ins for them. Might not be a lower buy-in for you, but it's a lower buy-in for them. And their mentality is like, I'm going to play for a trophy, so I'm just going to get my first 40 big blind all-in spot that I can take, and they'll just throw fives in for 40 bigs. And they're like, all right, I'm just going to double or get out and then go focus on my 109s or 215s. So even the good players will have some punts in these things. And if you're not an elite player with extensive history of crushing these, you want to be there to take advantage of them. So make sure you're in a place where, again, you've got the supplies you need. You're mentally locked in. You can jump in from the beginning of the tournament. You can play the full length of the tournament. And if not, consider pivoting to these smaller fields or taking the full day off. And then this is the most important one. And I'm gonna camp here for a second, okay? Because this is advice you're not going to get anywhere else, because everywhere else is going to teach you the same bullshit. Excuse my French. But everybody wants to teach the same bullshit, that when you play a tournament, you play a tournament to win, and you shouldn't play a tournament for any other reason. And if you don't play to win, then you're the worst poker player in the world, blah, blah, blah. All right. Can we just take this into practical life for a second and leave all the grandiose, glorious, hyperactive, obnoxious egomaniac shit aside, okay? You're playing this tournament with your money, you're buying in, you're playing the cards, and you're making the decisions, okay? You're a responsible adult. You have to be to play on these sites. To legally play, you got to be at an age of being an adult. You make decisions for yourself, okay? What happens in a lot of these tournaments, especially the ones with bigger prizes, is people dream of being in the final table. They dream of playing for big money, but they don't actually think through being in that situation. And then they get in those situations. Everything goes right. They have that one miraculous night they've dreamed about for many years, and they're in that spot, and now they don't know what to do, because every pay jump is doubling their bankroll or adding a zero to their bankroll or adding a comma to their bankroll. But there's 50K, 100K, 150K up top. And now panic sets in, and they're going back and forth between playing too tight and not tight, too tight, not tight. Don't be that person, okay? If you're going to buy into a tournament that has $200,000 up top and 117 to second and 58 to third and 46 to fourth and so on, before you play that tournament, you need to make the conscious decision. When I get down to 20, am I playing for the win or am I playing for ladders? It's a very serious question to ask. Now, yes, the status quo is going to tell you that you make the most money playing for the win, so you should always play for the win. But it's just not true, right? Because situationally, you have to do what's best for your situation, your bankroll. And the example I always use is like it's obviously an extreme example, but it's like if you satellited into the main event for $1, right? And min cashing that tournament takes your bankroll from $100 to $18,000, then you do whatever you can to min cash. You're not going to like go all in. I'm just being honest. You're not going to go all in with aces when you have a 35 big blind stack on the stone bubble of the main event. You're not going to do it, and you shouldn't do it. And anybody that tells you to do it is an asshole, because they're just trying to make you feel bad about doing what is in your best interest. Because the reality is, even if you double with those aces, it's not like you're magically winning the main event. You maybe have added another $2,000 or $3,000 of EV to your stack, but not min cashing that tournament for $18,000 would be a goddamn travesty. Now that's an extreme example, but I have seen numerous situations where players have made really deep runs. They get down to the final 20 or 30. They weren't expecting to be there, and now they're torn between playing for ladders and playing for the win. Figure this out before you ever click register. Get it in your head. Figure it out. And then have that game plan and live with peace with it, right? If your game plan was, look, I'm playing for the win, I'm not gonna be scared of ladders, then go out and play the best poker you can play and go after that win. And do not be disappointed when you lose a flip and go out 27th, because you made that decision ahead of time. So you made it, follow through with it, have peace with it. If your decision is like, oh my God, I made it deep here, every ladder is $500, this is like really important money to me, I just don't have it in me to play for the win, then make that decision and live with it and follow that approach and survive and survive and survive. It will make you less money in the long run, but honestly, how many times are you going to be in this situation? Now, there is a step back from this, which is like if you're playing a tournament where the pay jumps matter that much, maybe don't get in that tournament. Maybe play a smaller tournament where you can play your best. And I think there is some merit there. But we're human beings, and we've got to stop coaching poker in a world where everything is perfect, where there's no emotion and we're all robots and everything's autopilot. You are human. You have emotions. So be aware of those, be aware of your limitations, be realistic with what's going to happen, work this out ahead of time. So when you get in those situations, you can stay calm, you can stay focused, you know what your game plan is, you can approach it. I hope that makes sense, because this is like a really important one. I've seen this happen way too many times where players play a big event. I saw a player, I'm not going to say what it is. I saw somebody in a big tournament. I think there was like 70K up top. I saw them blind down to half a big blind. And I was like ripping my hair out watching it, because I was just like, oh, like, you know, because they were so scared to lose that that they weren't focused on what they needed to do, and they were torn, and they froze. So like they would get into a decision, they'd be like, oh man, I've got 2 big blinds, I've got pocket sevens. Oh, I don't know what to do. Obviously they should know what to do, but because they were so fraught with the money, they weren't thinking clearly. So we have to really get this worked out ahead of time. All right. Step 4, let's talk about ways to adjust your gameplay in the early stages of these tournaments. Number 1, don't bluff. Just don't. Okay. If you guys, this is a little spoiler for the summer course that's going to come out in April. This is true at the WSOP, and it's especially true in these all-in tournament series. This is when people want to strut. They want to show off their stuff. They want to make sick moves. They're kind of like in this heightened state of like, I want to be badass. So they didn't come to fold. There is no reason for you to bluff in the first 2 hours in the majority of these tournaments. There just isn't. Now, don't get me wrong. You get a pot, you know, like if you've ordered the Ramp Poker training course, and if you haven't, please go to ramppoker.com. There's 10 free videos for you over there. Go check those out. Go see how they help you. We've had 61 people sign up and take those free 10 videos. I've had all kinds of positive feedback from that. Go get yourself some free material. But you know, now I just completely lost my train of thought. Good job, Rob. There is no reason to bluff in the early stages of these tournaments. If there's really weak pots where the opponent, I remember now, if the opponent, you know, checks twice and you want to attack a pot where they've checked twice, the pots that people aren't interested in, sure. But if you think you're going to run some sick triple barrel bluff and you're going to like 3x pot the river because a backdoor flush came in and they're just going to snap fold their top pair, you're out of your damn mind. Okay. It just doesn't happen at a high enough frequency for that to be a positive EV play. It may work once in a great while, but it's going to fail more than it was going to work. And all you're going to end up doing is dumping chips. It's going to make it harder for you to double, or you're going to end up firing just as many bullets as these monkeys that are just firing 8, 9, 10 bullets into every of these fields. Just don't bluff. Just don't waste your time with it. Your goal for the first several levels is just to field punts. That's it. Field punts. They're going to happen. These players are going to overplay their top pairs. They're going to overbluff. They're going to gamble when there's all-in opportunities. You're going to see people like see an all-in and a call and be like, you know what? I got pocket twos. Let's just see if we can spike it too. That's literally the thought process that players in these fields have. And I know, because I hear people piss and moan about it to me. They're like, this is ridiculous, man. I played this field and I got aces in against ace, king, and 5s and 2s. And if I'd have won, I'd have been the chip leader. And then a freaking 5 hit the river. It's like, yeah, welcome to tournament poker. Welcome to online tournament series. This is how it plays. So get used to it. You're going to get all in a lot. You're going to get in some big spots. You're going to lose some of them because these people are just shoving pots out there. So all you want to do is play very fit or fold poker. We don't need to get fancy. We don't need to make a bunch of moves. We just need to hit big hands. And when we hit big hands, we're going to get paid. Now, this does not mean we have to play ridiculously wide ranges. One of the mistakes I see a lot of people make is they get the first two concepts here, but then they're like, all right, well, I'm going to catch punts and these guys are punting. So you know what? I'm just going to call on the button with 3-4 offsuit, because if I hit a wheel or I hit trips or I hit 2 pair, I'm getting paid. And then they just start hemorrhaging chips because they're just calling way too often, bricking flops, and then, you know, every time they do that, their stack gets down. Then when they do finally hit that hand and they get a chance to double, their stack is way lower than it should have been. So just because people are punting doesn't mean you just need to take your ranges and throw them out the window and just start calling with any two. We still want to stick to good fundamental ranges. The reason those ranges are so good and fundamental is because they give us the best chance to hit these big hands. In fact, if you wanted to, you could even play a tighter style where you were really focusing on the hands that gave our opponents reverse implied odds. So really focusing on like suited aces and suited kings, really focusing on Broadway type hands that can hit the top end of straights. You know, obviously your pocket pairs, and really try to play a more tight trappy style. That would be okay. But what you don't want to do is just start cramming a bunch of additional hands in, because all you're doing is you're just leaking chips. And then when that double comes, it's not worth as much as it should have been. And then last but not least, if you've known me for any length of time, you've heard this 1,000 times, go massive with your value. Get greedy as hell. And this is through every stage. Do not be afraid to 3x your aces and kings and ace-king pre-flop. Do not be afraid to 5x or 6x 3-bet, especially when we get over 100 big blinds. Go with massive sizings when you're 3-betting your premium hands, because they are not folding. And the bigger of a pot we can build pre-flop, the bigger of a pot we can build post-flop, the more likely we get all of their chips in the middle. Be greedy as hell in these spots. You probably aren't being greedy enough, even if you think you are. Because these people, they just don't care. They don't care. Step 5, ways to adjust in the late game. Now, how many of you have ever played an online tournament in a tournament series, big money up top, you're 9 hours in, and all you can think about is, I don't want to bust? We've all been there, right? Like, you've been playing for 9 freaking hours and busting feels like the worst thing in the world. That is 99% of your player pool. So, what should we realistically be doing? No one wants to bust. We should be taking advantage of this. And this goes back to what I said in step 3 about coming to terms with your goals and what your plans are well in advance. Because if you can mentally prepare for the fact that when you get down to the final 60, 70, 30, 20, final 2 tables, you're playing with a bunch of people that don't want to bust. And you can get comfortable saying, you know what, I'm going to take some extra risks because there's a lot of fold equity in these spots, fully knowing that I could fold from 60th down to 20th, but the extra risk of going out 60th is worth all of the chips I can accumulate from all the additional fold equity that's here. You come to terms with that before the tournament starts, you're going to be mentally prepared to take advantage of this late in tournaments. And this is, again, why so many people make deep runs in these series, but fail to get over the top. Because when the fold equity really comes in, they're doing the same thing the field's doing. They're like, God, I don't want to bust. I can find a better spot. I can find a better spot. I can find a better spot. Before you know it, they're folding ace queen off in the button to a cutoff open from 12 bigs because they think they can find a better spot because they're so scared of flipping, right? So you really want to start to dominate these series. We got to be very comfortable putting our entire stack in the middle when we get like 100 on down. Again, I'm not talking about punting. There is a fine line. I'm not talking about like, you know what, screw it. I got 5s, 40 bigs. Let's go with it. And, you know, I'll either double or go to bed. Okay. We're talking about good spots. But again, these are spots that people tend to be very comfortable taking in the early stages of tournaments because there's no risk of loss. Like you've played for 20 minutes. You're not emotionally invested. The payouts don't matter. When you get to that 9th hour, they do. And we just have a tendency to get away from what works. So I love the idea. If you can do it, you really, 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 really want to dominate these things. Take 20 minutes before a tournament series starts and put some headphones in, put some soft music on, whatever. Block out the world and just visualize yourself in a spot like this. Visualize yourself in a spot where you have ace king facing a 3-bet or ace queen suit or whatever. Pick a spot that you would normally very consciously make a very simple decision, but maybe when there's a lot of money on the line, it would make you nervous. And walk through it in your head. Walk through these spots. It is such a valuable mental exercise because you get yourself comfortable. You get your subconscious comfortable with this, this way of thinking. And then when you see the spot, you already are prepared. You know it. It's like when when you were in school and you studied for an exam, and then you see the question that you studied and you're like, I know the answer. It's the same thing, right? It's really the same thing. It's not some weird mystical way of thinking. It's very practical. It's just think about what you need to accomplish in these situations. Think about the scary spots and mentally think through what you're going to do and how you're going to approach it so that when you get to that spot, you know what you need to do. Super, super important. We got to bring the aggression. The bigger the field, the more we're going to want to embrace variance. Now, embracing variance, right? We talked about variance last week, and that was one of the last points. How do you overcome variance? You embrace it. And if you're going to play large field tournaments, you just have to embrace the fact that you're going to have to win 15 flips, 20 flips to win a 2,000 person field. You just have to. It's just the way it is. It's not easy to do. And trying to avoid the flip is pointless because it's coming no matter what, right? You're going to have to win flips, a lot of them. And the people that try to avoid flips end up blinding themselves down to the point that when they finally go for the flip and they do win it, now they have to win an extra flip because their stack is so short that they're not going to be able to survive long enough to get premium hands. And they've actually added one additional flip they have to win in order to win the tournament. So even though they won the flip that they were avoiding the whole way through, now they have to win an additional flip to even get back to where they were if they'd won a flip an hour earlier. All right, you guys. And this is a really important concept. Now, again, the reason this happens is going back to step 3 again. That's why we're going to keep coming back to this. It happens because people are not mentally prepared for what to expect. And they get to that spot and all of a sudden it's like every pay jump's another $200, another $500, another $1,000. And they get so fixated on that they're not thinking big picture. One of the best things you can do in a tournament series is understand you got to win a bunch of flips. And when you're in a spot that you know it's a good spot to get your chips in, and it's probably going to be a flip, you just need to go with it. And understand that over the long run, those are going to even out. And at some point, it's going to be your day. You're going to win all those. And you're going to win a lot of money. But it might not be today. But if you're going to pass on those spots, you're taking your ability to win the tournament down significantly, and you're dragging out how long that tournament's going to go, which is going to make you more tired for the next tournament, which is going to make it harder for you to play your best in the future. So again, I'm not advocating for punting. I don't want you guys to just like take a gamble spot and recklessly put your chips in when you know you probably shouldn't. But when you're in spots where it's like, this is just a spot I'm supposed to get it in and it's a 50-50 spot, embrace them because you can't avoid them. And avoiding them to make an extra 10 or 15 or $20 or 50 or 100 is not the right play unless you've decided ahead of time that that's the way you're going to approach this tournament. So again, back to step 3, what is your goal, right? Think through this. See how this all comes back together. It's all full circle here. And these are the things that the average player just isn't doing. And that's what makes these tournaments so juicy is the average player just hops online, they click a button, they go in, they play the tournament, no thoughts about anything they're doing. Can you see how this intentional process, having a schedule, setting some goals, thinking about what you're going to do in the late stages of these tournaments, making sure you're prepared mentally. You've got your drinks, you've got your food, you're ready to lock in and play 8, 9, 10 hours of poker. When you get deep, you know how to apply the aggression. You know how you're going to approach the game. You know what risks you're going to take. Do you see how much edge that gives? And if you haven't been doing any of these things, honestly ask yourself, how much of a disadvantage have you been? Because there are people that are doing every single one of these things. And I promise you they're getting better results. Lastly, step 6, we do need to remember to have fun. If you put too much pressure on yourself, if you stress yourself out too much about how you're approaching the game, it's going to wear you out. You're not going to play your best poker. The way I like to say it is that online tournament series are about opportunities, not results. Now, sounds contradictory because I did say track your results, and you do want to track your results. Absolutely. I'm not saying the results aren't worthwhile, but when results are bad, the focus is on the opportunities we did have. And it's a mental mindset shift to be in a place where we go, you know what? Yeah, I didn't make money this tournament series. I didn't make any final tables. I didn't win, but I had some opportunities. You know, I got all in for the chip lead with 15 left. I didn't win the but I had the opportunity to be a chip leader in this tournament. I know it's easy to say in principle, and it's hard to do in practice. But this really can free you up. If you can look back and celebrate the opportunities you had, celebrate that you got to participate in those opportunities and have that kind of mindset, it'll keep you in a place where you can appreciate the game more. You can appreciate the experience more. You can come out with much more positive thoughts than if you just, approach it in a way where you're like so fixated on being results oriented. The reality is the vast majority of these series, you're not going to win. In fact, the vast majority of these online series, you're not going to make money. And know that going in, right? This is an investment. You're not going into an online series. Again, going back to the goals, your goal in an online series is not profit. I'm sorry. You cannot guarantee every time you play an online tournament series that you're going to be profitable. You just can't. There's not enough volume. Anybody can come out, play an online tournament series, and brick. I've heard stories. Ryan LaPlante used to tell me, my coach used to tell me about guys in the summer. I'd go out for the summer at the World Series. I'd go out for the entire summer, and I'd be like 2 weeks in, hadn't even made a dinner break, and I'm frustrated. And he's like, man, I remember when Jungle Man went 0 for 107 at the WSOP. Or like numerous stories of these guys, Chris Brewer, like people that have gone out and literally played 120 events for the summer and not cashed a single one. So when we talk about measurable, obtainable, like there's no guarantees, right? So just know that. Don't put all of your enjoyment of a tournament series into, I have to win a bracelet, I have to win a trophy, I have to win 4 figures, I have to profit. Because those things just sometimes aren't going to happen. I like to talk about it as banking your EV bucks, right? Every time you put yourself in a positive situation and it doesn't work out, you're one positive situation closer to getting the result you want. And we don't know how many it's going to take, right? We don't know how many top 50s we need to win a tournament, but we know the more top 50s we get, the closer we are to winning a tournament. And if you play enough top 50s, eventually you're going to win a tournament. So this is why I love to coach people on like deep runs. And I like deep runs over a large scale. I was talking to a student a month and a half ago, and I was like, we were talking about 2025 goals. And I said, here's the 2025 goal you need. Have 25 live deep runs next year. You're going to go play, 150, 200 live tournaments. Go have 25 deep runs. And the cool thing about a goal like that is when you go to a particular, say you go to a Run Good series for a week, and you have a goal of 25 deep runs for the year. If you have a deep run on day one, cool. The job's not done, right? There isn't this like, I did it, now there's nothing. At the same time, if you don't get a single deep run that series, who cares? There's one series. You got 193 tournaments left this year. On to the next one, right? It lowers the pressure. So don't even be afraid to like make your goals for the year. Like, all right, I want to have 3 final tables in online series in the next year. Might be a little ambitious. It depends on like how many small field online tournament series you play. But But at least a goal that's longer term like that, like we can make goals that are easier to obtain or we can zoom out. Goals like that, like take the pressure off. And I like the idea of having the pressure off so that when you put the energy in and you put the effort in, you can still mark a check mark and say, I did this right. I didn't get the results I wanted, but I took a step in that direction and now I'm better off for where I'm headed. So this is the crux of everything that is dominating online tournament series. They're a lot of fun. When you do get that big score, it is really, really exciting. And there is an emotional payoff that is amazing. But there are usually many, 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 many nights of disappointment before you get to experience that one night of excitement. And honestly, it is the many nights of disappointment that make that one night so special. So I hope this helps you have a better approach and mindset to how you tackle these. Exciting week. For those of you that have smaller bankrolls, definitely check out the Micro Thunder. Again, I'm not sponsored by either site. The OSS, I believe, has some smaller buy-ins as well. OSS is going to be bigger fields. So if you're after the really big prizes and you like to play for the biggest money, OSS is going to be your groove. But just know the tournaments are going to go longer and you're going to have to play a higher variance style. For those of you like smaller fields, better chances, but you don't care as much about the prizes, Micro Thunder might be your grind. Any questions or comments before we dip it out of here? Tomorrow night on the Chase the Dream podcast, we've got a fun night planned. I have told nobody in our panel what we're doing, and I'm not going to. I have a little surprise planned for them. They're just going to show up and be blindly thrust into it. So you want to watch them scream and wonder what the hell's going on? Come out tomorrow night, 7:30 Eastern. You go to watchchasethedream.com. We'll take you over to our channel. Tonight on the Rec Poker podcast is going to be Katie Stone is joining us. She's a tournament insider, does a lot of advocacy for women in poker. Talks a lot about content too. She'll be on at 7:30 Eastern tonight. You can search for Rec Poker or go to rec.poker/pod and it'll redirect you to the page. But other than that, yeah, good luck to everybody this week and next week in these different tournament series. We'll be back next Monday with another fun topic. Not sure what. We might make it a Q&A. We'll kind of see between now and then, but doesn't look like there's any other questions. So have a wonderful week. Enjoy March Madness. I know I will. This is my favorite sporting event in the world. I love it more than the Super Bowl. I love it more than the World Cup, although the World Cup is close. So Thursday through Sunday, I will have tournament games on every monitor, and I'm just going to be living the dream. So appreciate y'all. Head over to rantpoker.com, get yourself those 10 free videos, and we'll see you soon.